Okay, guys and girls, welcome back. Can you guess what it is yet? Well, this is one of these type of weeks where things have started to go wrong and you just have to muddle along. It's broke. Yeah, it's a cheap eBay swivel socket which was really thin, didn't realise, hasn't had very many working hours, and it's broken. And that was an eBay purchase. This one's a snap-on one, which I lost the other one, 80 quid compared to 20 quid. Big difference. Yep, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Well, we'll stick a welder on that and see how we get on with it. If not, we'll have to go back to snap-on. Yeah, it didn't help too much, really. Things just didn't seem to work out as they were. This blowtorch seems to just not work at the right time for doing heat shrinks, yeah. And talking of heat shrinks, you ever opened a box full of heat shrinks and they all fall out everywhere, and then you've got to find a way of packing them all back in? Yeah, that's just one of those days. Right, so you know I get contacted by companies to review products. Well, one of these is FCP Tech, which is heat shrinks, and it's exactly the same as what we use at work. And yes, you just did see Blondie walk past with a mobile by her ear. It's a crimper which is for the heat shrinks. These heat shrinks are exactly the same as what we use, and they are very popular now, which is for basically repairing wires. Okay, so side marker lamp here. Yeah, and the AWG fittings that I've got here, pink, blue and yellow. Yeah, it's the usual stuff, but these ones are shrinky dinks, aren't they? And they do work if you heat them up properly and crimp them properly. Yep, so the crimper also is on the storefront, and I'm not going to tell you how good it is yet, but this is going to go in my breakdown box, and I will give you a review of it once I've done a few jobs, electrical jobs, because I can't show you the same thing all the time, because generally what I do is a lot of side marker wiring. But yeah, heat shrinks is the way to repair stuff, or to put stuff in line anyway, or for connectors for batteries and all sorts of terminals. Yeah, so basically this is the correct crimper for the terminals, whereas I've been using something different which wasn't quite right. Don't know about you guys, I don't know what you think about the fuel prices and the fuel shortages. Yeah, we are going through a crisis again, aren't we? And it's just ramping up. And look at this, sorry, no diesel, no unleaded. It's getting more and more common. Perhaps a guy could tell you all about that. He watches global affairs. He's clued in what's happening. But anyway, when he started with us, he looked at this tool and he said, "Oh, what is this? I don't understand this. This had hook. Is this for a weapon? Maybe you can hurt somebody with this. I don't understand. It's weak, but it's interesting. What do you do with this? Ice pick, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. I put back in box." That's what he said. Yeah, well, this is what it is. It's a seal puller. I'm sure some of you guys sussed it straight away, but yeah, if you can get underneath the seal in a hard place, which sometimes they're not, because this Isuzu D-Max seal, which is a little bit awkward and tough in there, is what it's for, is for pulling seals. Okay, and I don't often do this now. I used to on Land Rovers, and that's about it really. There aren't many vehicles actually you get to have fully floating bearings, yeah, but that's just one of these things. That's a fully floating bearing, and these bearings have been overheated, as you can see by the bluing, the discolouring on the surface there. They've been a little bit too hot. Okay, they should look a little bit better, but that's just the way it is. It's about 80,000 miles, something like that, so they need a change. 4x4s are high maintenance. Yep, so you can see the discoloration there. That is not good. Now the Isuzu setup, this is interesting because it's 3 screws on there, and I had to do a disc change and wheel bearing change on the front of this. So yeah, this is quite interesting. And this was one drilling out the screws because they wouldn't come undone with a screwdriver, and when I put a screwdriver in, they just screwed up the thread. But here we go. Left hand drill bit which turns the way a screw undoes. Yep, so you can see the action there. Right, so look at this, takes the screws out. Yep, that's one way of getting them out. The other way is to chisel them out, which is a bit brutish, isn't it? But yeah, you can see that all 3 screws out, no problem. Yeah, and you always have spares when you order your discs. Get the screws and an extra locking plate as well. Okay, the hub nut is a bit weird on these Isuzus. It's the first time I've actually stripped one down, believe it or not. Even though we've serviced a lot of these in the past, they never seem to go wrong. But apparently on the A service, you're supposed to take them out and re-grease the bearings, which is a job in itself, obviously, because you've got to take the caliper off. So came in originally with a complaint, no brakes. Yeah, no wonder, no pad. Pistons come out completely popped out and it was leaking. Okay, so that was recovered in. And yeah, what we've had to do is discs, new caliper on one side, and I want to show you this tool that I've got here, which is a clamp. Yeah, you like this, don't you? It's a brake hose clamp. As you can see here, this is what it looks like for clamping off hoses, so you don't lose any more fluid when you're doing work on your brakes. Yeah, but you need to bleed, so I have a brake and clutch bleeder, which is Blue Spot. Yeah, our favourite tool company. Yeah, which is cheap and cheerful. Okay, for breeding brakes or even doing clutch systems. Okay, so yeah, you get instructions here, and there's not much to it, to be honest with you, but you do need an air supply, so it's a workshop piece of equipment. This is a reservoir top-up, so instead of having to run around and top up the reservoir, unfortunately the Isuzu one's too wide, but there are adapters to have it stand up on your master cylinder. We'll have to resort to the old way of keep running back to it and topping it up. Okay, this is unusual actually, because the neck on an Isuzu is a lot wider than most vehicles. You want to be bleeding brakes, what, 2 yearly? You don't want to get them to that colour. When the fluid's that colour, there's corrosion in the system, isn't there? Yeah. So yeah, basically it's you fit an adapter onto the nipple. Okay, crack it off, crack it off. Get it? You crack off the nipple. And then just pull the trigger once it's connected to an airline, and what happens is it literally it's a bit like a spray gun really. It just has a gentle vacuum which will bleed the brakes up, but that will pull the fluid through the system. It does take time. It's not one of those super duper, oh let's do it in 2 seconds. This does take time, and you see it's not a full flow here, which first when I used it I thought, yeah, that's not right, but it is right actually. Yeah, the adapters you get here, you get 2 different types. You get the right one for your bleed nipple, and as that's pulling it through, yeah, this has been used quite a lot actually. We've been running it in the workshop and found it's really good. So yeah, it is basically simple. Okay, so I've given it a good road test and I'll say yeah, this works quite well, simply because I can get a pedal. Yeah, that had no pedal when it came in. It does have a solid pedal now, so I've bled up the fronts. Okay, so that works, and of course to get the level on the reservoir right, you can also use it that way. Yeah, so it is for workshop use really. You need an air connector if you've got a compressor. So yeah, 1/4 inch BSP inlet connector, which is a PCL coupling, which we use in the workshop. It's fairly standard in the UK, but that's what it looks like, and you know how it works. So link below if you want one of those. Now, rear brakes, had to take drums off, change the shoes, screws. They never come undone unless you use something like an impact driver. Okay, so you whack it, it turns just a little bit, it jars the screw threads to come undone. Yep, so this is a story within itself. Brake drums, removing those. Now HGVs, the drums, you have a threaded hole on both sides, so what you can do is put a bolts or 2 bolts in and then wind them out. This will pull the drum off the hub, but this had a hole. Don't know what the thread was. Turned out it wasn't a thread at all. There was no thread in there, so yeah, okay, yeah. So what I have to do is resort to a bit of banging, and you can see the amount of shit and dust coming off this. Well, this was only half the story. Now, remember I did a review on the Tesla. This has turned into a station bike, this Endoscope. Yep, Tesla Endoscope, which is absolutely brilliant for sticking in places to see things. Now, Tesla have asked me to review a new one. Okay, so Pete delivered this from Van 73 very, very quickly. Okay, I will do a review on this, but it's not actually a BROESCOPE, it's a BROESCOPE. Yeah, BROESCOPE.
BROESCOPE, like bro science, bro.
Okay, dude, it's a BROESCOPE camera. Yeah, well, actually, it's a mini one. Okay, which is all-inclusive. There isn't a detachable lead on this. And as you know, I do brake chamber checks because it is a pain in the backside when we do a loaded brake test for MOT before we send it to test. So I look for the springs, broken springs. a lot of uses with an endoscope. It has become a vital piece of equipment, and as I said, the station bike actually means it's something that everybody uses. So yeah, that's a failed brake chamber. Done that pre-MOT inspection, and this means that I don't have to change them on the lane. Okay, so yeah, done, finished. I will do a review. This is nice. As you know, we don't read the instructions. What we do is just mess around with them, press the buttons and see how they go. So I'll show you the uses of this later. This is nice. This is a nice bit of equipment. I've recently had a lot of kit sent to me, a lot of emails. Don't know why. I think it's just one of those seasonal things. Okay, so it's not bad at all. So getting back to the story of the Isuzu, there is an inspection plate just up here, and behind there is an adjuster wheel to wind the brakes off, and I needed to find it, so here we go. Just a quick look in there, and I'll just show you that there's the wheel teeth, so I can now wind the brakes off. And when I did, literally I could get the drum off. And yeah, you're going to tell me, yes, you do need to wind brake drums off, or the shoes off, before you take the drums off, because there's usually a lip which you can't get past the shoes. So yeah, okay, that's there. Brake shoes are almost a metal. Yeah, don't like this type of system because there's lots of springs and things. Yeah, so you can see the adjuster wheel in there. A little bit more complicated than HGV brake drums. So what I do is use a mobile phone, not only for taking pictures of part numbers, but also when I'm going to disassemble something, so I know which way it goes back again. Always refer back to a picture. Yeah, so mobile phone, vital bit of kit in the workshop or at home. Yeah. So there we go, that's a full bleed up. It's had wheel cylinders, brakes all round, new drums and discs and everything, and yeah, that tool works really, really well. Nice, solid pedal. But that wasn't the end of the story. When I got it for a test drive, something else happened. If you'd have watched our Arty Diag 600S review, you'd have known that Boney was into the data side, which is looking to see what the ECU is kicking out and why there is a fault. Okay, this is another part of the Diag system. Okay, so we have a graphing facility, which is actually really, really handy when you need to find out what's going on. Okay, now I did have a problem with this vehicle, which was not pedal position. This is just Boney showing you what was in the review, okay? But it's the live data that makes the difference between diagnosing a problem and just changing parts. So here we have a warning light for the ABS came on, and I had to dig into it, and this was late at the end of the shift, and I really didn't want to deal with it, but it was a quick diagnosis, which did come out as a learning curve. Okay, so TL Isuzu, this is strange, this one, we don't have a Wi-Fi connection, but it did dig out the right Isuzu by automatic scan. Okay, so we're running for a VIN scan first of all. At the bottom here it will come up with the make eventually, and it told me exactly what it is, TLI or TL Isuzu. Okay, so once I got into that, that meant I could get the right connections for the ECUs. Okay, so we're just letting the stuff load up into the system first of all, and going for an automatic search. And from this, okay, you can either do area yield or automatic search, which is ideal really. System selection, which is already loaded up, and I'm looking for ABS, ESC, EABS or AEBS. We'll just have a look at the fault codes first of all. We have a steering angle, center position invalid, malfunction. Okay, now it's a long number. I told you about the P codes and the U codes and everything else in the review that you can type in and it will give you a description. However, on this one it wouldn't do it because the number was too long. It's vehicle manufacturer specific, okay, or ABS specific. But you can click on that button there. If you have Wi-Fi, it will connect to a database. Okay, right, so what we're going to do is go for read data stream. There's a lot of information in here, which means the ECU on the ABS side is actually quite complicated, okay? And we have a lot of information we can look at, but what I need to do is look for the steering angle sensor. SAS failed, yeah, that was notification that it's failed. We know that. Steering sensor center status, steering wheel angular position, they're the three we want to look at, okay? Now, I'm running and gunning this one, so sorry about the shaky screen here. I'll try and improve this. But basically what I needed to do is find out what the angle sensor was doing, and I've got the graphing system up on here, turning the wheel from left to right, or from lock to lock, and seeing how it was behaving and what it was registering at. And this was quite interesting find. I don't know why this had happened, because when it came in with a brake fault, although there was no information about warning lamps on the dashboard. So the steering sensor stated is not centered, okay, and it has failed. So I'll take those two off the graph and I'll look at this one, and we'll analyze that now. Okay, so we have the graph here. This is center position. You turn it all the way one way and it will go to 436 degrees, full lock, and then we go back to center, go past center, and then back out, and it drops out to 0 because it can't read it. Okay, so there you go, it can't read it on the numerical side, flatlined on a lock. Yeah, so once you start winding it the other way, you can see the numbers was over 600. Yeah, go back to 0 and then down again. Okay, so that's lock to lock. So one side is reading fine, minus 434 degrees. Okay, on lock, and then back the other way. And when we take it to 0 and past 0 again, you can see this, it goes up and then boom, yeah, it's gone off the scale. So what I'm trying to do now is center it and find out where it says 0 on the machine. Okay, so that steering wheel sensor angular position is 0, and look where the wheel is. Yeah, in comparison to where the steering wheel is, that is why it is out. Yep, so it's not registering right. Okay, so this is a bit of a handy tool to tell you what's going on. So what do you do about it? You can either reset it or replace the component if it's failed, but the component is actually reading, it's just not reading correctly. So what do? You do a reset, which the machine can do. So looking again a little bit slower, you've got numerical and graphic. Okay, so if you understand graphs, then all the better. So what we've done is go from one lock, okay, held it on the lock, you can see there, so it's 400 odd, and then turned it back the other way. You can see where it started from 250 and not 0, and then it's climbed up. Okay, so the angle is going up to, yeah, 600 odd, and then it bottoms out and can't get a reading. Yeah, so that is actually wrong, but the sensor works.